Welcome to Guilty Like a Mother. This is our second episode, and today we're going to be talking about the Menendez brothers again, but going a little bit more in depth. Last time was just like a short notice thing because they had the press conference, but we're going to talk about the trial, things that we remember about it, and just go from there.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Kind of excited.
Yes.
On August 18th, 1989, Lyle and Eric went to several gun stores in Southern California. They wanted to buy handguns, but there was a waiting period. So they were permitted to buy shotguns. They basically got shotguns. They went home on the 20th, so 2 days later. Their parents, Jose and Kitty, were watching TV in the den, and Lyle and Eric just went in and basically unloaded. Jose was shot 6 times, including a fatal shot to the back of his head. Kitty was shot 10 times. Now, before the fatal shot to her cheek, she was trying to crawl away. Lyle ran to the car. Eric gave him more ammunition, so he reloaded. And that's another big deal that they've said, like the uncle has a problem with the fact that he reloaded. I'm not for murder, but I think of course he reloaded because that was a witness, But anyway, they then tried to go out and get alibis for themselves. They tried to go to the movies, try to get a movie ticket, but they saw that wasn't going to work because there was a timestamp on the ticket purchase. So then they went to a Taste of LA festival, and then they came home and called 911, acted emotional, said that they had just came home and found their parents' bodies. And that's what started everything. It wasn't until, I think I calculated 7 months later, that they were actually arrested.
Mm-hmm.
And in all of that time, the 7 months, that's when they made all of those purchases. And the purchases were, I think, a big reason why they were looked at. But really what happened was that Eric was seeing a psychologist, and he confessed to the psychologist. And while there are a lot of things that are covered by, doctor-client privilege, murder isn't one of them.
Yeah.
I guess. So
Well, the most incriminating piece was that tape of Dr. Arville's therapy sessions.
Mm-hmm.
What they said that was most important incriminating piece of evidence. I've been doing some more looking into this, and I found out some more stuff. So on the money part of it, they were looking at getting $14.5 million. That's what their parents' estate was. And so today that would be equivalent to $38 million.
Their father. So we're talking about Lyle and Eric Menendez. Their father was Jose Menendez. Was he independently wealthy? Like, were his parents wealthy? Did he inherit that, or was it generational? There we go.
It was not generational.
So he just started a business and the money started coming in.
Yes. Yeah, he is a self-made millionaire.
Okay. So, Jose Menendez, correct me if I'm wrong, but he started he was a music producer? Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
So it says here that Jose Menendez was actually born in 1944 in Havana, Cuba. And he came to the United States when he was 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So he went to college, and in college he met his wife, Mary Louise, who we all know as Kitty. And they got married in 1963, moved to NYC, and he got a degree Queens College in accounting, but he didn't use that degree, I don't guess.
Yeah.
And then Lyle was born in 1968. Gosh, I wouldn't think that he's so old. 68. Um, Kitty was a teacher, but she quit her job after Lyle was born to stay home, be a stay-at-home mom. And the family moved to New Jersey. That's where Eric was born. And somehow he became an executive. Jose became an executive at Hertz Corporation and then later became an executive at RCA Records. And that's when he moved to the big houses in Calabasas.
Yeah.
That's like Calabasas. That's like, isn't that where like the Kardashians live in Calabasas? That's like rich, rich.
Yeah. I think you're right about that.
I can't even afford to look at those houses.
I know it. Can't even afford to dream about those houses.
No. But in 1988, this is something that I did not know. Lyle and Eric got in trouble for committing burglaries in the neighborhood. They stole more than $100,000 in cash and jewelry. So that prompted Jose to pick the family up and move them to Beverly Hills. I wonder why he moved to like Beverly Hills though. Like, was he just trying to like keep them out of trouble, or was he trying to hide the fact that they were in trouble? Because obviously he didn't.
The Netflix movie talks about that too, about them getting in the troubles of the theft and then him moving them. And that was one of the things that they're showing that Kitty was upset about too, because she wanted to stay where they were.
As a mother of children, one time my daughter, she was like 4 years old. She wanted a piece of candy at the store, and I was like, nah, we're not doing that. She had on boots, and she went in with me, and I didn't know until we got back out to the car, but she had slid a candy bar inside her boots. And I found out whenever we got back out to the car, and I walked her back in, and I made her tell what she did and let them deal with it. Like, I didn't figure they're gonna call the police on a 4-year-old, but I wanted her to be afraid. So I can't imagine just like picking up a family and not having consequences. I don't know, but that's kind of crazy.
Well, the movie, and I don't know how true this is, portrays that the dad went around to everyone's houses that they took from and wrote them a check, pretty much asked them, what do you want? Whatever price they said, he wrote it for. Whatever, so I think that's what helped him to not be in trouble for that.
You know what? I bet that he paid them off to avoid the negative attention himself, not to necessarily keep them out of trouble, but just to make himself not look bad. Isn't that
Mm-hmm.
could be wrong?
Well, yeah, and then like in the Netflix movie, he says to the boys, he said, "We're leaving. You've ruined our reputation here now." So he didn't see that they could look good again in that area. So that was, yeah.
I don't mean to laugh. He's saying that his children stealing ruined the family reputation. Never mind the fact that he was graping all of them. It's sad. I'm not laughing about that, but it's just the
Right.
hilarity that the balls that it takes to say something like that when you're hurting everyone in your family.
Mm-hmm. It's some mind games.
So Lyle and Eric moved to Beverly Hills, also houses I can't afford to look at. Eric and Lyle got very involved in tennis. I guess more Lyle than Eric. I said that wrong. Eric.
No. Yeah.
Eric was very involved in tennis.
Because when they wanted to arrest him, he was overseas too at a tennis deal.
Well, this says 2 weeks before the murder, Eric and one of his friends entered a boys junior national tennis championship in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was doing some research on where the money went to that they were spending after the deaths, and they said a big part of it went to Eric's tennis coach.
that
So
he
he had,
continued doing the training. It
yeah,
must have been Eric's happy place to do tennis because that's something that he was good at. I wonder what happy place Lyle had, though, because it says that Lyle attended Princeton University. He was put on academic probation because his grades sucked and he got in trouble for plagiarism. He lived in a dormitory there. He threw his roommate's belongings out because he didn't want to share a room and left the sinks to overflow, causing damage. And he repainted his room, which he wasn't supposed to do, which that's like minor compared to everything else. Who cares that he repainted his room? But
I know, right?
um so I wonder what it was that Lyle liked to do. It does say in high school Eric wrote a screenplay called Friends about a rich young man who his parents in a perfect murder for the inheritance money. And that was many years before what we all know happened.
Yeah, right. Actually, the money that they spent wasn't the estate money. It was 650,000 of the dad's insurance. He took out a personal life insurance on himself, and that's what that was.
So they must have been the beneficiaries on his father's life insurance policy.
Yeah.
Well, the dad wasn't going to change that, but what's in question is something that's brought up at trial, and maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead, but they argued that the boys committed the murder in order to go in and prevent their father from taking them off of his will. And taking them off of the will would not have changed that life insurance policy. That would have had to been changed separately, right? I don't know that much about life insurance, but I think it's a separate thing.
I don't either. I don't have it, but I would think that that is that's what I've read. It's separate. So, because he took that out on himself, and it had nothing to do with the inheritance, the money that he had. It was not a part of the millions that they were saying that they killed him over. So the 14.5 million, which I found out later on that wasn't, what that was is what his assets was: houses, vehicles, stuff like
Yeah, it
that.
wasn't. Well,
So unlike cash money that he had in the bank or whatever. It was just, and then so Lyle spent 90,000 on his dad's credit card alone. So I thought that was interesting. And as far as the purchase of the restaurant, they did try to purchase a restaurant, one restaurant. The uncle helped them to secure a loan on that, but it ended up falling through. They weren't able to come up with the money to get it, so it fell through.
I thought I read that they tried to purchase 2 restaurants, but no, you're right. This says, as part of the spending spree, they purchased. This says they did purchase a restaurant, but you said it fell through. They purchased a Porsche Carrera sports car, 3 Rolex watches, and invested $40,000 in a rock concert. I don't. How do you even? beyond my means to even understand that.
And then
How
even,
you invest in a rock concert? Oh well.
and I mean, the money back then too. I mean, like 40,000, that's like 80,000 today. You know, like when they compare, yeah, they went through that money, and that did not help them to when it came time to go to court. That kind of that helped the prosecution to show that these are not the actions of people who are in grief for the loss of their parents. But then the defense argued that the reasoning that they were doing this was to get their minds off of the loss of their parents, and that was their
I don't
grief.
think people can say like what grief looks like from one person to another. I don't know. I might be happy if I bought a Porsche. That might make me real happy.
Right, and they are a penthouse too. They
Yeah.
tried to buy a penthouse. And they were staying at the Bel Air Hotel, which is a very expensive hotel. The Jose's company, Live Entertainment, was the one that was paying for their stay there. So that cost $8,000. So that was part of that 650,000 K as well. So
they had two trials. The first trial in 1990, that judge permitted evidence to come in that the boys were essayed by their father for a lengthy period of time.
mm-hmm.
That ended in a hung jury. But the second trial, because LA County wasn't satisfied with the first one being, they could have left it alone, but they decided they were going to go after them again, right? And that judge was like, nope, we're not letting that evidence in because there's no proof. There's nothing to corroborate that happened. And you
Mm-hmm.
can't just say things willy-nilly with. So they were convicted. And it wasn't just that they were convicted of murder. They were convicted of murder with a special circumstance being that they lied in wait, waiting for their parents. So that's why they ended up with a life without the possibility of parole sentence. They've gone on to do a lot of good things in prison. They've created programs where they were like counseling or support groups, other men that had victims of SA, which honestly to me is like a huge deal because men don't want to admit that they're victims of SA.
Yeah, right.
And I saw something else earlier, like they had done some like green stuff, like environmental stuff in prison.
Mm-hmm. I see
They
that.
It seems like they're very smart men that have used their time wisely.
Yeah, well, and I think all of the things that they have done is what has got the DA looking at them, that they're not going to be a threat to the community. They're going to actually, and the DA said it too. He said that, that's how he sees them, that they're going to help the community. They recognize that because of all of the things that they've done in prison. He said that their work ethics, professionalism, and being contributors to the betterment of the community is what they've done. They participated in victim impact programs, workshops, and events, along with creating multiple programs to help those in need. They've shown tremendous amount of efforts in rehabilitation as well.
And I do think before we wrap this up, I think it's important to point out that a lot of people who go to prison, men and women alike, do not go in there and do things to better themselves. They might do things to pass the time, but a lot of them go in there, they get friends, they join gangs, they just live the prison life and not do things that are helpful, to other people. And no one would have said anything had Lyle and Eric gone in there and done that. They just wouldn't be in this position now, but they didn't know that they could be in this position now.
Exactly. They made they almost made the prison a pretty place. And if they can do that to a prison, what can they do to the outside world? You know, and that's kind of how I see it anyway. I think they're genuinely good people, good souls. They've demonstrated that when they didn't think that that was going to have any impact on anything.
I did like the fact that, and I'm just going off of memory here, but I believe the DA said that they had resentenced 300 people and only less than 5 had reoffended. And I can say, I know, like being from Arkansas, the recidivism rate is like 45, 50%. It's like super high. That, that people who have been in prison are going to go back to prison. So
Yeah.
the fact that it's so low means that they have something going for them. They have some sort of solid program, solid factors that they're looking at before they recommend resentencing.
Yeah, right. And this is at the R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego, too. So, I think once they were able to be back together, which was in 2018, maybe they were so appreciative that they were finally able to be back together that it just brought something good out in them where they wanted to make change, where they wanted to do something. And so that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
I hope that they said it could be 30, 45 days before they have a court hearing, but I hope that we're able to come on and update at that time.
Yes, me too.
So thank you for joining us on this case, and we will see you next time.